What's up, my friends in the film fandom, wherever you may be and however you may be watching? Thank you so much for giving us just a little bit of your time. Here to talk about one of the more interesting comic book films to ever be made. It's the opinion of this film for a lot of people has changed over time, and you're going to get our opinion tonight. Here to give you our opinion is, of course, my hetero life mate Jeremy. What's up, brother?
Well, I'm glad I didn't watch the 20-hour-long director's cut of this movie. Good
If
God.
I had access to it, I might have.
I mean, I don't know. This movie had time for a lot of things, and that's not including all the slow motion, which weirdly was not as prevalent as I thought it would be, given that it's Zack Snyder. But I'm also not used to being up here on top. I don't know what happened. I suddenly got like first billing instead of Frank. Suddenly he became a bottom. I don't know. You heard it here.
Power bottom, though. Power bottom.
That's fair. That's fair.
And of course, our good friend, the sheriff from Lone Star State, one of the horror experts, our man Tex. What's up, brother?
Well, you know, they asked the question in this film, who watches the Watchmen? Well, apparently it's us. I think that's the answer to that question. So we solved it for him. So
we did watch it. I actually got a chance to watch the movie twice before we.
And yes, I did. I want my credit here. I watched the 3.5-hour ultimate cut of this film because I am a Snyder fan. All hell Zack Snyder. You know, I love BVS. And yes, this film is tremendous. It's just, you know, it's great. I'm here to support. And this is my rabbit. Say hi to Charlie.
Say hi to tomorrow's dinner. That's a lucky rabbit's foot for 4 people right there in his lap right now.
I'm telling you what.
But let's get right down to it. Again, no Cora tonight. She was having an internet issue. She was having some struggles today, but we look forward to having Cora back whenever she gets all that worked out. So we look forward to having her back soon. But tonight's film is the 2009 The Watchmen. It's a 2009 American superhero film based on the 1986 to 1987 DC Comics Unlimited series of the same name. It was co-created and illustrated by Dave Gibbons with co-creator and author Alan Moore choosing to remain uncredited. We'll talk about Alan Moore and his decision for that later on. Directed by Zack Snyder, the film features Malin Åkerman, Billy Crudup, Matthew Goode, Carla Gugino, I always mispronounce her name for some reason, Jackie Earle Haley, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and Patrick Wilson. It's a dark dystopian deconstruction of the superhero genre. The film is set in an alternate history in the year 1985 at the height of the Cold War, as a group of mostly retired American superheroes investigates the murder of one of their own before uncovering an elaborate and deadly conspiracy, while their moral limitations are challenged by the complex nature of the circumstances. A financial failure, the film made only $185 million against a budget of $135 million, but is held relatively strong with fans. On Rotten Tomatoes, Watchmen has a 65% approval rating based on 312 reviews and an average rating of 6.4 out of 10. The site's critical consensus reads, gritty and visually striking, Watchmen is a faithful adaptation of Alan Moore's graphic novel, but its complex narrative structure may make it difficult for it to appeal to viewers not already familiar with the source material. And I'll go to Jeremy on this one first. Do you agree with that consensus? Is it something that you kind of had to be in on the story to really get the full effect of what it all was?
Yeah, because like there is a lot to this movie. I mean, I guess I am just a pleb. I watched whatever one I searched that came up, and it was like the 2-hour 45-minute one. But even then, and I've talked about this before, where it's like either there are some movies where you don't notice it, and even like I've even watched like Gone with the Wind and not noticed that it's like 4 hours long. You know, this one I was like, oh yeah, because I watched this maybe I think once before in like 2009 or maybe 2010. I was still in high school, and I'm like, I have not watched it since until just now. So talking about your opinion changing, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I remember this being like, this is a little different. And I'm like, there's a lot to this where I'm like, what's going on? Oh, cool. We're doing Rorschach stuff because obviously Rorschach and definitely not John Winchester / Negan doing what he does best are the best parts of this movie. So I'm like, yeah, this is fun. And then I'm like, okay, but I don't mind setup. I don't mind backstory. I don't mind a packed full, movie because it is visually stunning, as you said. But I'm like, I feel like if I didn't read the comic or know anything about it, which I didn't then, and I kind of know more now, but I was like, yeah, I wouldn't know what the hell was going on, because I think in the last like hour and a half is when it was kind of finally like, oh, okay, now we're doing stuff. Now we're kicking ass and taking names and whatnot. So I don't know. I've got a little thing to read comics on my phone, like a little app to do. I might actually look into the comic itself. So
I almost bought the graphic novel yesterday. I was at the bookstore yesterday, and I saw it. I was rolling through some of the graphic novels, and I was like, I could. Do I really need it? And I talked myself out of buying it, because I'm a little too cheap to buy stuff for myself. But as I was getting home, I was like, I think next time I go to the bookstore, I'm gonna have to pick it up, because I've got the V for Vendetta one. It's back there behind. You guys see it behind my Guy Fawkes mask. But there's a couple of them I kind of want to have on my shelf. I think that might be one of them. But I mean, Tex, what about you? Do you agree with the general synopsis of that we saw on Rotten Tomatoes about it being a great representation of the graphic novel, but maybe a bit too far out of the realm of understanding for those for those that are not in the know?
I remember seeing this. The trailer for this film was on The Dark Knight. So when everybody was going to see The Dark Knight, they got to see the scene of where the glass structure is coming out of Mars and the whole thing, and it just says Watchmen in DC. So Watchmen is probably the greatest graphic novel ever created. I mean, if you're biased towards Marvel, maybe not, but I would say most people think Watchmen is.
Am I biased?
But I knew what Watchmen was. I had read, I think it's either 10 or 12 issues, or you can just buy the whole graphic novel. I knew what it was. I didn't know they were making a movie about it. So whenever I went to go see Dark Knight, I see, all of these things. I'm like, oh my God, Watchmen, a movie coming out. Because, I mean, there was so many. I think there was 2 or 3 tries of them trying to make a Watchmen film, and it never worked. But whenever it finally happened, of course, they attached it to Dark Knight. And it had one of 2 reactions. Either you were, oh my God, it's finally, or what the hell is this? That was kind of the reactions to what is Watchmen. And this was one that I went to the midnight screening for. And I was in love the first time I saw this film. It was this, out of all the comic book movies I've seen, this is the truest to source, with a few changes. Now, apparently y'all haven't read the books. There's a few major changes that I think this is one of the rare cases that the movie is better than the book. And whenever we get to certain parts, I can talk about it. But what Zack Snyder did to this story, I think he made it better. And, some people hate it, some loved it. This is a cult classic film in the truest sense, because it, for a lot of people, their initial, that they think, oh, superhero movie. This is anything but a superhero movie. I think this movie was about 10 years too early. If this film came out now, it'd blow people out of the water. But at that time, it was you know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought I kind of get it. What they say about it not appealing so much to people who weren't familiar with the source material. You remember, comic book movies at that time were kind of in their infancy. I think 2009, that was right around the time or even before Iron Man, so we didn't have the MCU yet.
Yeah, this was the time of Dark Knight, Iron Man, Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton.
Right after Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, early MCU or right before it. Sometime at the beginning of this big resurgence we got because of the MCU. So we hadn't really had the expanded universes, whatever, the whole thing where all 20 characters and movies all kind of boiled down to one thing. But it was interesting. I mean, this was it's like, because we never gotten like, at this point, we never gotten like a Justice League or anything like that. We never had a team up like this. Right. This is before Guardians of the Galaxy, before the Avengers, before all this stuff. So we never really saw a team of superheroes kind of on the big screen represented like that before. This was interesting kind of first. I kind of compare this movie a little bit to Blade Runner in that maybe it was a little ahead of its time. Like maybe the crowd wasn't ready for a more cerebral look at some of this, or maybe a more realistic look at it. One of the things I like about The Boys is that it kind of asks the question, what if the superheroes weren't exactly good guys? What if they were very flawed individuals just like you and I, and not always standing there, with the breeze blowing their cape and the sunshine and peace, justice, the American way and all that, but that they were kind of broken, just like any other asshole walking the streets were kind of broken. And this kind of was the first representation of what we'd eventually get in something like The Boys or Invincible, if you guys were watching that animated thing on Amazon, something like that. If they were kind of fuck ups, because these characters were kind of fuck ups. But yeah, Rachel says you guys don't get it.
Yeah, I was thinking. I was thinking Back to the Future as well. Yeah,
yeah, it is kind of like that. So,
well, to be fair, it is an alternate 1985. So
yeah,
it writes itself.
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting movie. Watching it again the other day, I was kind of like, this movie hits you a little bit differently now, because in 2009 I was younger, and I was still kind of seeing it through like the younger perspective, and again I was into movies and stuff, but didn't quite have a decent understanding of what made a good movie at the time. Now I look back on it and I'm like, this is kind of a pretty good movie. It's a pretty interesting take on things. It's like a Brightburn or something like that, where you're not.
This one makes you think.
Yeah, you're not getting.
That's what I like.
Version. Yeah, you're not getting the fluffy version of the superhero stuff. It's not a bunch of one-liners. They beat the bad guy, pow, pops up on the screen, and then the bad guy goes to jail, and the good guy goes back to the Batcave and celebrates his victory. It wasn't so one-dimensional. It was actually multifaceted. There was a lot to deal with. Every character is for being the hero is very different. You know what I mean? They approach this situation differently. They have different ideas as to how they think it all should work out. Different ideas as to how to handle it all. It was very interesting stuff that is kind of standard to see in movies these days. I mean, that's kind of what drove the Justice League movie, Zack Snyder's Justice League movie, is that there was this conflict between these characters as to how they should proceed. Do they bring Superman back? Yada yada yada. I like to feel like some of those themes carried over into some of Zack Snyder's later stuff, which were some of the more interesting things about his DC universe stuff. But let's get to the cast real quick. The cast, honestly, not quite Marvel level, but I don't think you could have cast this movie a whole lot better. Tex, I'll go to you first. What about the cast really stood out to you? Was there one or two that stood out as great? Was there one that stood out as bad? What do you think of the casting?
There are so many bright spots to this cast. Jeffrey Dean Morgan as a comedian.
Yes.
Somehow he does some of the most horrendous stuff, and you still like the guy. He shoots a pregnant woman dead, and you're like, she did attack him. You kind of justify it. He attempts to sexual assault. He does horrible stuff in this, and that Jeffrey Dean Morgan charm still wins you over. You've got Jackie Earle Haley as Rorschach. This dude carries the movie. Rorschach is my favorite character. I love Rorschach. He is what I would want a Batman to be. He's a realistic take on Batman, the way Jackie Earle plays him. Yes, he unfortunately had to be in that terrible Freddy Krueger movie, which nobody should ever watch that ever again. That's a movie I would recommend for burning and erasing from existence. But Jackie Earle Haley is the conscience of this film. His dialogue, that goes throughout the whole film is
Rorschach's
just so
journal.
Cool. Rorschach's journal, day blah blah blah, and then just whatever. You've got Malin Åkerman. Malin Åkerman got a lot of crap for this movie, and I don't think it's deserved. If you watch the director's cut, she plays a lot better, because and I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but I'm doing it intentionally. This after Dr. Manhattan basically has the TV appearance and says, just leave me alone," and disappears. The government is questioning her. Where is he? Where is he? We pay you to keep tabs on him. And she grabs the government agent's coat and slams his head down on the table and says, "That's the closest you're ever going to get to calling me a whore ever again." And you can obviously tell she's been tortured by her mother forcing her to be a superhero, and the government basically paying her to keep Dr. Manhattan happy. She's a tortured character here. I can't remember the guy that plays Ozymandias. Adrian Veidt.
Good.
Good, yeah. He was a little on the nose, as obviously. This is a murder mystery. Who done it? If you don't know who did it the first 5 minutes of seeing him, you're an idiot. Let's be honest. But he plays a very cold bad guy. What you need him to be. So I think the cast is great. I think it's very underrated. This is why I suggested this film to be reviewed. I don't know if you had done it or not, but I think it's a very quality film.
Yeah, Matthew Goode is the name of the guy that played Adrian Veidt.
Yeah.
Somebody that me and Cora know very well. He was in Downton Abbey. He was also in the first couple seasons of Crown, not to mention a couple of bigger movies that have come out over the last 10 years or so. So his career is definitely done very, very well. But Jeremy, I'll go to you next. What do you think of the cast? Who do you think was great casting? Who do you think was not so great casting?
Well, like Tex said, Rorschach carries this whole damn movie.
Oh yeah.
He's. I mean, the minute you see him, or even you hear his gruff voice narrating his journal, it's like he was my favorite character throughout the entire movie. Can you get any better than that? Even when even when he unfortunately got unmasked and he's freaking out, and I mean, you gotta give it to him.
Give me back my friend.
Right. I love that. But you gotta admit the best damn line that all of you have probably heard. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. You know what I mean? Holy shit!
Or criminals get arrested, dogs get put down.
Oh my god!
That one. Oh my god! That's one of those stand and clap lines. Whenever he takes that meat cleaver, it just goes.
Right to that dude's dome.
Doesn't even care.
Yeah,
great.
You gotta push it over the edge, man. Yeah, he's fantastic. I love the look. I love the Rorschach mask. He's definitely somebody that I've considered. I'm like, I would love to cosplay as that character. They do make those little heat changing masks and shit, so you could conceivably do it. It'd be kind of cool. And then also, you can't go wrong with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Like you said, he can shoot a pregnant woman. He can Russian a whole crowd of civilians at a protest, and you're still kind of like,
oh come on.
Is he wrong? Because it's kind of, not to put too much Walking Dead into it, but it's like he's kind of the Shane. He's already there. He's already figured it out. Because he said, guys, screw it. It doesn't matter what we do. We're already we're already out the door before we got here. What's the point? You know what I mean? Like you said, they all handled it differently, but he kind of had a more extreme method of just saying screw it. But yeah, obviously those two guys are pretty awesome. We won't talk about the Freddy Krueger thing.
Yeah, that's the redheaded stepchild locked in the basement. We don't talk about.
Movie which shall not be named.
Yeah.
But
otherwise, whoever they got the cast as Nixon, that's so damn funny because I just believe he's Nixon for real, even in this alternate.
Except for that makeup, my God, did nobody look at that and go, "This looks horrible."
He's got the face and the voice, but I'm like, it's an alternate timeline. Who cares? I
mean, maybe they ran out of money and they just had to sacrifice to make Nixon look like that. I don't really know, but it is what it is.
I mean, do you want a cowboy in the White House tax? Is that what you want? Oh, that was so damn funny.
It worked in the 80s.
It worked.
But yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, Rorschach kind of carries the whole film. His narration through the film I think is a nice touch. You could have just not done narration and just had it been kind of a straight up action thing. But I think his narration gives it a bit of a different, bit more depth. Yeah, I think it was classy. I kind of like that different flavor to it. He does kind of carry the film. I find myself kind of, especially now that I'm getting a little older, kind of saying I kind of get Rorschach a little more. He's so jaded by everything that he's just like, you know what? Let's just what's right, what is just is pretty clear. Let's just do it. And it seems like nobody else sees it his way. It's one of the things that frustrates him with the course of the film. I loved Patrick Wilson. I think is fantastic. He was kind of on the fence to take the role. I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'm really glad that he did. I think it was fantastic. Malin Åkerman. This is actually one of her first big things. She had done some smaller stuff.
This was her first
movies, but this was really her breakout role, and I think she was fantastic because it's playing a superhero can be difficult under benign circumstances because you kind of have to play two people. You have to play most of the time. You have to play the superhero and the alter ego. So it's like Christopher Reeves is playing Superman and Clark Kent, and they're two diametrically opposite kind of people. So it could be kind of a challenge, but I mean, I think all of them did it very, very well. What's sad to me though is the one person who, upon watching it again the other day, I just feel like there could have been somebody better. Not that I don't like him. I just feel like there could have been somebody better. Was Matthew Goode. I found myself kind of annoyed when he was.
I agree with that. I agree.
I mean, not that I don't like him as an actor. I love him. Big fan of Downton Abbey. Loved him on that show. Everything else I've seen him and he's been good in. But it's like for this one, I look at some of the casting possibilities and I kind of wonder what could have been. We'll talk about that again here in a minute because there was a pretty big name that was actually really interested in playing that role and ended up not coming to fruition. But I just for some reason he didn't grab me on camera the way that I think other people could have. Now, could I have casted it any better? Maybe not. I mean, like I said, I can't think of anybody right offhand that would have really done it. But for some reason, he didn't impress me in the movie the way that I had hoped he would. He's impressed me in lots of things since then, but in this movie, he's the only thing that really stood out to me. It's not a negative, just not quite as good a casting as the rest of the movie, in my opinion. But I can't knock the rest of it. Like I said, and Billy Crudup was fantastic. Matt Frewer, it's always good to see him and stuff. I remember Matt Frewer all the way back to the 80s and the whole Max Headroom thing.
Max Headroom.
Yeah. So, and
I always go to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He was the neighbor.
Yeah. And that too. But in a lot of like the guy that played Nixon was Robert Wisden. I thought that those they were kind of, I want to say, caricatures or parodies of the real life people. I mean, because there was a lot of big time news people that were in the show as well. Face the Nation, stuff like that. All those people were all TV shows that were big at the time.
That guy playing Pat Buchanan was great. I love that
Pat
guy.
Buchanan, another one.
Yeah.
The
He got it perfect. He nailed it. He couldn't have done any better.
Yeah, the joke about Ronald Reagan running for president in the next election and stuff like that was kind of funny. Nixon being elected to a third term was kind of funny. I mean, some of those weird kind of elseworldly things that happen in a different universe were kind of cool. But I love the cast overall. I think it was fantastic. Like I said, Matthew Goode was the only one to me that I didn't quite get into, but he didn't take me out of the movie or anything. I thought it was a lot of fun. The cast was really, really good. I can't knock it at all. But let's talk about the plot. Again, kind of a alternate history to me is actually really fun.
Yeah,
there's a book that I read years ago.
Love it.
I forget the title of the book, but it's basically what if these things didn't happen. And it breaks down several different things, like what if Babe Ruth had not been traded from the Red Sox to the Yankees? What if Kennedy had not been assassinated? What if this and that and the other? And it kind of looks at how the world existed at that point. It was like, this is probably what would have happened. I've always kind of been interested in this, what could have been if things had gone differently. And it is kind of an interesting look about how society could have evolved. I don't think it's entirely accurate, but I mean, it's still interesting. I mean, the thought behind it all was like, damn, that's if superheroes actually existed. This kind of is pretty interesting. I don't know, Jay, what do you think of the overall plot of the movie?
You talking about like the first hour of the movie or like the last hour and a half?
Well, because I don't know. Give me a little bit of both.
Because I mean, the beginning, yeah, I agree with you. I always love alternate history and stuff like that. It's just funny to watch it happen. You know what I mean? Because like, what if there were superheroes and some 50-foot like radiating blue man just stomped through Vietnam? It's like, well, like we just reviewed with the stuff. Hey, we may have lost a war at home, but we sure as hell won over there with that guy. So, and like you said, with the like Nixon running for a third term, I think he ran for 5 or some shit because the guy was like, "Can you believe I voted for him 5 times?" I'm like, Jesus, yeah, like just funny stuff like that. It's fun to watch. You just kind of, like you say, turn your brain off, have fun with it. And interesting to see where it ends up with this. It's like there are things that are kind of the same. I mean, what was the? Oh damn it! What was the? There was a Twilight Zone joke in there, like the the intro, but it was called something else, like The Other World or something like that, or something.
The Outer Limit.
The Outer Limit, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, there was Outer Limits playing on TV.
Yeah.
It's definitely a Twilight Zone joke, but I'm like, yeah, that's funny. This is Chaos Theory working his magic for you. But yeah, the beginning's fun, and I like the setup, and like you said, the thing that jumps the whole thing off is Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character getting killed by this unknown assassin, and
It was all a joke.
yeah, I guess he got his punchline, huh? It's called The Pavement.
I gotta say, for being 67, he looked great. I hope I look that good at 67.
That's what I'm saying. I wish I could tussle. I wish I could tussle with some guy in an apartment when I'm 67. Jesus, man.
The way Jeffrey Dean Morgan ages from the 40s in the Minutemen to the 80s in the Watchmen is like 5 years. Just the hair goes great. That's like the only difference, So we should all be so lucky.
I would say like Carla, her like hair and makeup and shit, you could believe she aged like 40 years. That was very well done.
Well, she's so beautiful. Even at 67, she's still a god.
Yes.
I mean, she's just a gorgeous woman.
Obviously, yes.
That's just one of those things.
But then it's like, then the middle-ish, I kind of just got lost, and I'm like, okay, I don't really know what we're doing. No, something's happened. They're doing each other. I get it. They're doing each other. Damn, they're still having sex. I watched The Room, and I'm like, good God, this is like the Room levels of like, okay, I get it. Jesus, that's without the slow motion. I'm like, this movie is 3 hours long.
If you had read Watchmen before you saw it, you would have liked that in between part. But that's where I'm like, oh, okay. I wonder how close. That's why I commend this film.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's Zack Snyder went heavy in the details of Alan Moore's book. This is damn near a shot-for-shot remake almost. Like I said, with a few differences. He went very heavy in the plot details of the backstories. I mean, hell, the comedian's funeral takes like 15 minutes because everybody goes back to their reflection of time with comedian at a different point in time. We see the 40s with the Minutemen, then we see Vietnam, then we see, when Patrick Wilson's Night Owl is, and we see all the things, and I mean, just the costume alone, how much they change over the years, I think is so cool. I mean, I know this is kind of off topic, but how cool is that credit sequence with Bob Dylan playing over the top of it? That is one of my favorite credit sequences out of any movie. I love that so much.
Yeah.
That whole opening credit sequence is something we're going to talk about in the trivia because there was really a lot in that opening sequence.
I was going to say that, like I said, with that alternate history and then watching it and having it all unfold, I'm like, that's really cool. I like this. Like,
well, that's the whole thing is, but plot wise, I'm not surprised that you kind of checked out because that's when they get real nerdy in the details of the book.
I'm not mad. Just I was kind of like, okay, but
no.
I was kind of like, where are we going though? But I'm like, there was like a whole hour of like, okay, now we're just gonna fuck each other. We should probably break Rorschach into jail real fast, and then suddenly this guy's bad. He's all behind it. Okay, let's go kick his ass. I'm like, slow down.
What happened to us?
No,
quit.
Slow down. Like, wait a minute. Well, like they have their thing, and he's got his, he needs his little night owl Viagra or whatever, and then they go kick some ass, and I guess that fuels the mood. And I'm like, didn't y'all just before you got here? Good God, hold on.
How cool is that fight? When I've been in my fair share of fist fights in my day, but I've never hit somebody in the elbow so hard that the arm goes the other way and the bone shoots out. I need to get back in the gym.
I was gonna say some of the effects though in the fights. I mean, yeah, holy crap!
Oh, the blood shots in this movie are great. I remember whenever the night that I went to see it, people brought their kids because it was a superhero movie. People were dragging their kids out because it was so violent. I'm like, this is a rated R film. What did you think was going to happen? I mean, it's do you not pay attention?
I mean, spoiler alert. I mean, when Rorschach gets absolutely obliterated, I was like, okay, but that was cool as hell. Like this weird, like splattered outline of just blood and like muscle and tissue and shit. I'm like, holy Jesus, dude! Like this movie just went over the top, and it. Then I kind of think they were like, oh yeah, well we needed plot. It's nuclear shit's happening. I'm like, well. Again, it does tie in with some stuff doesn't. I mean,
Cold War,
I was like, well, if I can quote Fallout, war never changes. If that is kind of the whole message of this movie, and it's kind of got like a Thanos type of thing where he's like, this is kind of what has to happen because look what I did because I killed all these people. Like it's inevitable. Like, and even though you don't kind of go along with the ideals of it, it's like. At least Dr. Manhattan was kind of like, I mean, I saw the damn meme in my head from Falcon and Winter Soldier. He's like, he's out of line, but he's right. You know what I mean? I guess they thought like, hey, maybe hard reset.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. When we get to the talk about the end of this film, this one makes you think. This isn't like, oh, Joker bad, Batman good. This is not a clear-cut line here, which is what I think is so impressive about this. Is it breaks down the dichotomy of what is a superhero, what would a superhero look like in real life, and what are the repercussions of that. I think this film, I mean, it wasn't successful. This film, I would say, is one of the key figures that's responsible for the more grounded take on superheroes. I mean, from Dark Knight, obviously Batman Begins and The Dark Knight had already came out, but look what came after that. You got the dark and the gritty versions of everything. And this film, I think, can take some credit for that, but it very rarely does, unfortunately. And it deserves a lot.
That's the nice thing about, like, you can be a superhero, but like, while it's fun to just sit there and watch them, just beat all the ass, it's like, it's less fun because like you got to have problems too. Like you said, there's repercussions for anything they do. Like when I read back through the President Loki series, the first damn thing is them. It's literally the Avengers talking to a crowd. And they're immediately like, okay, you see the battle, you see the whole thing. That's what we see in the movie. But it's like, well, what happens now? Like, you just tore through a whole neighborhood trying to stop Ultron. You're like, so I hear you. Tony Stark's like, I hear you. So what I'm going to do? They're like, okay, we're going to put some money into your, community again to help you guys get back on your feet. Because sorry about the buildings. You know what I mean? So it's like it's fun to kind of see it have like I said, there's consequences and stuff, and no one's ever, that moral ambiguity line starts to skew. And like I said, you could go as far as doing shit like the comedian did and just fire into a crowd and just said screw it. Or you can try to totally not be Batman and try to do the right thing, as it were. But even when he walked out of there, Night Owl was kind of like I get it, like.
Well, I kind of look at Night Owl and Rorschach as like a Batman and a Red Hood, because obviously Night Owl is basically Batman. I mean, that's what he was based off of.
He's Batman.
Yeah. And you have Rorschach, who they were a team. They very similar mindset, but Rorschach is willing to take that next step after what he sees with that dude and the little girl and the dogs. And, like Red Hood, he was a Robin that died and went bad, but he kind of good. He anti-hero kind of thing. Yeah. And, Rorschach, he's not idealistic like Night Owl is. Night Owl, he still believes good, bad. You can reason with it. Rorschach's like, nope, we're just going to cut you. We're just going to cut your head off. We're going to throw you down an elevator shaft.
Isn't that what he said? When he walked in there, he's like, look, I get it, but let me do this. Like, I'm going to take care of this.
Well, whenever Night Owl and Silk Spectre are going out to dinner, and she's asking, whatever happened to Captain Carnage or whatever that little guy's name was? It's a guy that wasn't even really a villain, but was running around saying, punish me, punish me. Patrick Wilson goes, well, he did that crap to Rorschach and he threw him down an elevator.
Threw him down an elevator.
And they just kind of laughing off. You know what I mean? It's like, well,
oh,
you asked the
Rorschach.
guy for it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like, oh, you know, it's like he's Dennis the Menace or something. They just giggle about it and move on. You know? But living in that world, you need a Rorschach. You need somebody who's willing to make the harsh decisions. You know, you need that type of person who's willing to take the garbage out.
He's going to get his hands dirty.
Yeah. Right. You know, I mean, what did Commissioner Gordon say in Dark Knight Rises to John Blake? I was lucky to have somebody that was willing to reach down in the dirt, you know, do whatever. I mean, somebody's got to do it. You know, it's just business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit tropey of superhero action movies at the time to kind of, because it seems like the first half of the movie is pretty much solely focused on Rorschach investigating the death of the comedian. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly it becomes about this grand plan by Osmosis, where the hell his name is. I forget the hell his name. Ozymandias, that's right. Somehow it became part of his grand plan to get the United States and Russia to get into a nuclear fight. And I'm like, really? That's kind of, I mean, it made sense for being mid 80s because that was the big fear back in the 80s was the Cold War and were we actually going to launch missiles with Russia. But I mean, so I get it for the time period, but I was kind of hoping for something else, something with a bit more depth, something that was not so kind of average. Because I mean, look, in the 80s they were making movies with that basic plot line.
Red Dawn.
So it wasn't like it was a new thing. But you know, I thought it was kind of abrupt the way they kind of switched from one plot to the other. Now of course they were kind of intertwined. They were kind of intermingled in a lot of different ways. But I thought it was a little bit abrupt. I think it could have been a smoother transition from what the movie had been to what it became in the third act, plot-wise. But again, I love the characters, so it doesn't hurt it as much because the movie overall was done pretty well. And I'm not a big Zack Snyder. I like Zack Snyder's work. I'm not a Zack Snyder fanboy. I'm not one of his apologists.
All hail Zack Snyder.
I have my issues with Zack Snyder, especially the way he's behaved the last 5 or so years.
Yeah.
But I mean, his work is what I mean. I separate the art from the artist as much as I can, and his work's been very, very good. So it was a bit clumsy, that transition, but still good. I mean, again, a bit of a cookie cutter plot in the end. I was watching it again the other day, and I was thinking to myself, I'm kind of disappointed that he didn't make it. Why did it have to be nuclear? Everybody was so worried about nuclear. It would have been more ahead of his time for it to be like a virus or something like that. Not like that hadn't been done in movies either, but it's like, you know, pre everything we've gone through the last 2-3 years, pre even like swine flu and bird flu and all the other crap that had come up in the last 20 years or so. I think it probably would have been funner to do something a little bit different other than just nuclear power or nuclear war or whatever.
Since he'd been around for so long, you could have been like, you know who caused the Black Plague? It was definitely him.
Yeah, totally. I don't know if he's that old, but still.
Well, he talked about Alexander the Great, right? Oh, that big.
Yeah, true.
So
that's who he idolized.
Yeah, I don't know if he's that old necessarily. Is he?
He's like late 30s at this point in time in the 80s.
Well, his character is not someone who lives for thousands of years, is it? Because he obviously
no. The only person within the Watchmen who has superpowers is Dr. Manhattan. The rest of them are just vigilantes. There's no superpowers. They say that Ozymandias, because he catches a live round that's shot at him. But if you want to call that a superpower, that's the closest thing.
Well, I mean,
but no, there's no age thing.
Speed is Flash's superpower, and that character's done pretty well over comic books and movies and
TV shows. Yeah, no, he's not.
And he was supposed to be the smartest man in the world, so I'm like,
I believe. I want to say in the Watchmen graphic novel, Adrian Veidt was born in 53. I want to say that's the year that he was born. It's been a while since I've read it, but it's worth a read. It's pretty good. So.
Yeah. I thought the plot was pretty good in the end. Again, it was kind of a basic comic book hero thing. Just kind of the twist is the characters are not exactly they're morally, some of them are morally, yeah. I mean, that's one of the interesting thing too is the difference between these characters. Is you have the one guy who we find out in the end is clearly the bad guy. You have Rorschach, who's the guy that's just kind of fed up with the whole everything, and he's just like he's the bull in the china shop who's willing to go forward. You've got Patrick Wilson's character, the Night Owl 2, not Night Owl.
Yeah, it is 2.
Yeah, Night Owl 2. Hollis Mason was Night Owl 1.
Yeah, you got him who's trying to maintain a little bit of morality in what he does. And then you've got what's her name, Malin Åkerman's character,
Silk Spectre.
Silk Spectre. You got her who's kind of she's kind of getting pulled in a couple different directions. She's got the relationship with Dr. Manhattan. She's got the burgeoning relationship that is falling apart. The growing relationship with Night Owl. And on top of that, she's involved in trying to figure out who killed the comedian. So there's a couple different. So she's kind of being pulled in all different directions. She's conflicted for a lot of reasons. And then you have Dr. Manhattan, who is struggling with maintaining his connection to humanity, while dealing with the other stuff that is easy. But his primary struggle is kind of like Data from Star Trek: The Next Generation. He's trying to figure out how he fits in with all these meat puppets. Mm-hmm. So. Because he is not one of them anymore. So there was a lot of different things all these characters were dealing with emotionally and stuff like that made their kind of dance around each other just as interesting as the good guys fighting the bad guy. You know what I mean? But let's talk about the graphics. I mean, we're not talking about 1970 here. We're talking about the early 2000s, or 2009. So we're talking about the first decade of the 2000s. The graphics, when I was watching them, they're still pretty strong. I mean, they still hold up. I mean, they're a little. There's a couple of shots that were obviously they look kind of like matte paintings or something like that. They weren't fantastic, but there were a couple of shots. One of my favorite shots in the movie is this one. It's equal parts beautiful and
straight out of the graphic novel.
Yeah, it's equal parts beautiful and terrifying. But I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think of the graphics overall? Jeremy, I'll start with you. Do they hold up over time? I think they do.
Yeah, nothing was really too, distracting to where I'm like, that's obvious. Like, I don't know, just because it's like, well, it's a superhero film, so I'm kind of already just in the mindset of like, well, I know it's gonna be there. Because even like Rorschach's mask, I'm like, that's cool. It's just really cool the way it just morphs and moves with him, and especially like when he gets kicked in the face and the ink like moves with it. I was like, okay, that's damn cool. It's subtle and it's pretty cool. I think maybe there was one shot. I think it might have been, actually, thank you. I think it was when it was on Mars. It zooms out and you see. I saw a whole lot of ass. He was floating in the air, with his back to.
Yeah, there's a lot of ass and blue dick in this movie.
There's a lot of ass in this movie. No lie.
If you don't want to see blue dick, don't watch this. But just fair warning.
There's a lot of skin in this movie, man. No, like it zooms out like when he's making his weird little coronavirus looking city there. It's like I can kind of tell like the little he's like a little blip on the surface of Mars, a real bright little blue spot. I'm like, that looks a little weird, but I'm like, I don't care. It's whatever. We're on the surface of Mars right now. He's having his existential, not human crisis. Okay, so I can forgive it. Honestly, Dr. Manhattan looked pretty sweet too. Like I know. Some of that had to be CGI, like his face at least, and the blue glow around him. Like it wasn't. Like I said, when I watched the movie The Core from 2003, and I'm like, that you can kind of tell. I was like, I look like I was looking at a PS2 game for a few times.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this is now on the other end of the decade. I'm like, even then, some stuff has progressed in the 6 years between those two. So nothing that was. Distracting because some of it had to have been practical, especially with some of the fight scenes and stuff. Like, first time you see Jeffrey Dean Morgan punch through that fucking wall and he breaks the concrete. I'm like, oh, okay. You mix a little bit of real with
how hard did he hit that goddamn wall? Holy shit!
For being 67,
I've seen this movie like I don't know, probably 50 times since it came out, and every time I see that scene, I'm like, my God, he hits like Tyson in his prime. It's like, this is ridiculous. But my Lord, it's gnarly.
Yeah.
Well, you imagine that somebody with super strength would be able to punch through cement.
Well, see, that's what's so weird is in the graphic novel, none of them have super strength. Like I said, besides Manhattan. That's one thing that Snyder did do with some creative licenses. He kind of amped up the power levels a little bit because I mean it's a superhero movie. You know, you can't just you got to make it even with what was coming out. You know, if so I didn't mind that, but I just it fit. You know, I mean when you got Patrick Wilson's Night Owl with his nerd glasses on, knocking people's elbows in half. It's kind of jarring, but you're like, okay, I dig it. It's cool. Whatever. It's all good.
Don't make fun of the fucking what am I thinking of? They look exactly, which is hilarious. They look exactly like the nightmare glasses from Batman vs Superman. But
oh yeah.
Now what's that movie with fucking Vin Diesel where he's got the
Chronicles of Riddick.
Riddick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Riddick.
Yeah. So,
but holy, I just realized that. Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I also, not only did I like that one shot, I also kind of like the way that they portrayed him on the Martian surface because, I mean, yeah, we've seen in the last several years, of course, pictures from the Mars rover and all that stuff, but it wasn't just the way he creates stuff out of it, the way that they actually use the natural Martian terrain, especially when they're that shot toward the end of the movie when he's sitting there talking with Silk Spectre and they pull back, you see not only the face of Mars, but you see the actual smiley face crater that was left there.
That was awesome.
Which actually, believe it or not, is actually a real geological thing on Mars. I found out when I was looking at some stuff for this movie. There is actually a giant smiley face crater where it looks like a smiley face, sort of. Not nearly as pronounced as one that we see in the movie, but there is actually a weird shaped crater. It looks like a smiley face on there. I forget what the name of it. I saw it, but I forget the name of it. But yeah, because one of the things I like is, especially in this shot when they're building the whole coronavirus shaped city, is that they do a lot in that when they're on Mars with like the dull color palettes. I mean, because it's really hard to take a shot like this. It's only got 2 or 3 colors and make it kind of vibrant and interesting and make it kind of grab your eye because it looks dull. But I mean, there's so much going on here. The glass structure of whatever the hell he's building, the sun behind it, lighting it all, the shadows, the kind of the beautiful desert kind of thing they have going on Mars. I just thought that was really well done. I thought those were great graphics, and I still don't know what the hell he was building. They didn't really explain what that is, which kind of bothered me as I was watching the movie the other day.
I think it's supposed to be like the inner workings of like a watch. I mean, because obviously his dad was a watchmaker. That's what Watchmen and everything else, obviously.
Yeah, but what was the purpose of what he was building, though? Was it supposed to be a time machine? Was it supposed to be like the new center of the universe?
I think he was just building. Like, I mean, because at that point in time in the movie, he's kind of like sick of humanity, and he just disappears. And he seems like he's just kind of bored and just does. He doesn't do for a reason. You know what I mean? I don't think it's. I mean, obviously, it doesn't last because Silk Spectre destroys it. But I think that was just something done for the film. You know what I mean? For the story.
He's trying to make his own Fortress of Solitude. Eat your heart out, Superman.
Yeah. Hey, Superman flew all the way to Krypton and back, so all he did was go to Mars.
Yeah, for nothing. Yeah,
yeah, just so his ex-girlfriend could break the whole damn thing down, and then they could come back to Earth.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so the graphics they hold up pretty well. Let's get to potentially some of the negatives. Jeremy, what were some of the negatives about the movie to you? Because there were a couple things that stood out to me.
I definitely agree with like the kind of the pacing of it, going from all of a sudden it's the only thing I can say about the nuclear thing is, I mean, that's still a pretty big threat, and it's kind of the point is like you need something like that to he's trying to kick these humans over the edge to be like, hey, you want them to stop being at each other's throats. It's got to be something like this. And although technically it wasn't really just, they were trying to blame it on Dr. Manhattan. So it's like, I get it, but I don't know. It's not like it's like some sort of galactic threat or something. It's like, these are, like you said, they're fairly grounded superheroes, but I don't know. It's whatever, using the time period of what's going on. I mean, really, that's kind of clever to use that that whole the kind of the height of the Cold War there in the mid 80s. as kind of your whole farce for trying to do this. So
Grab that guy.
all right, that was kind of cool. And then I feel like in then the last like hour, it was kind of I could have just believed that was the movie. And with some of the setup, I don't mind the setup and stuff with, like I said, with Rorschach and seeing the Minutemen in the 1940s and seeing, kind of where everybody came from and how we got here. And, even watching Jeffrey D. Morgan fight through wars was kind of like the only good thing about X-Men Origins Wolverine was that opening credits of them fighting through every single damn war is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So it kind of had that vibe, which was sweet. But it seemed like it was all of a sudden like, oh, now we need to have like a, superhero beatdown now. I'm like, okay. And because it kind of got lost on me all of a sudden. I don't know if he's supposed to be Superman. I don't know who that guy was supposed to be at the end, but suddenly he's the bad guy, and I'm like, all right, I'll go for it.
Which guy? What are you talking about?
The doll. Because I'm like, okay, cool, but we need to have somebody to beat down on. So I'm not gonna be mad if it's gonna be Rorschach and Night Owl. So yeah, it's just some things kind of seemed. Well, I'm like, why are we doing this? And again, I'm not saying the overly gratuitous nudity was not unappreciated. I'm kind of like, I know what they're doing. I'm an adult. Even like I said, even when I was a junior in high school, I saw the movie. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it.
Okay. Believe it or not, it's actually worse in the graphic novel because after
I believe it.
Literally, I'm not exaggerating. One of the nuclear bombs go off, and then Night Owl and Silk Spectre commence to having sex because it turns them on so much. So they actually toned it down for the movie.
It seemed like that was their mood enhancer. They're like, we're gonna bust Rorschach out.
Well, that's the thing.
Like
that was Night Owl's part of his character. Is once he stopped being Night Owl, he became impotent. Like his shit didn't work anymore. So you see him in the movie.
Pills, man.
He wakes. Well, this is in the '80s. They didn't have Blue Chew and Viagra and whatever. But the whole thing with the whole sex thing is, Alan Moore used it as a physical representation of Patrick Wilson's Night Owl being, because yes, Patrick Wilson is kind of in shape in this film, but in the book, he's a heavier set guy because he stopped being a superhero. Rorschach even calls him out for being fat. You gave up and you became a normie. You did whatever, right?
So he became Mr. Incredible, basically. In shape in his prime, and then kind of just,
He's like a rated R Mr. Incredible.
He gained 25 pounds to play this role.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he had to gain weight. I'll tell you, my biggest negative for this film is that, and I'm gonna have to go to the ending here, but whenever they get to the end and they know that Ozymandias is the villain, they're in his little palace thing in the Antarctic. What was it? Wherever it is. I put Antarctica. Antarctica. Sorry, it's been a day. They know he's fast enough to catch a bullet, right? So they shoot him once. He falls down dead. They know this guy. They've worked with this guy for decades.
Right.
Why wouldn't you double tap? Zombieland taught us this. You always double tap. While he's laying there on his stomach, like, oh, I'm just going to fake dying here.
Yeah, he was even like,
right in the back of the head.
He's like clutching it. I'm like, that is so obvious. Shoot him again. Jesus.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You just empty that clip into the back of his head till all the brains are on the floor. Then you can go home. I know that was my biggest. That was my biggest drawback. I don't mind the length of it because it was a very well told story, and I'm a nerd for this book. I've always loved Watchmen, but
you gotta
besides that,
go ahead. Honestly, you gotta love. No,
I said
the meta thing where he's like, I'm not a comic book villain. I don't sit here and tell you my whole plan.
Yeah.
Thinking
You think I
gonna
would
stop
tell
me.
you this if there was a chance? Yeah.
Oh,
Right?
God
That's what I'm
damn
saying.
it.
It calls it out.
That's good.
But it's like I said, besides the not shooting twice at the end, I would have liked for the unknowns who didn't know this book for more of a whodunit a little bit, because if you just look at the intruder in Comedian's apartment, you can tell who it is. It's the only tall, skinny, lanky guy in the whole film besides the UPS delivery guy. Pretty simple. You can see his face in the mask. Besides that, Richard Nixon, other than that, I don't really have any complaints with this movie. I really don't. I would recommend the director's cut because I think it fixes a lot of the problems. And there's a pattern with Zack Snyder in this. If you go watch the ultimate cut of Batman versus Superman, the ultimate cut is light years better than the theatrical, but it's also 40 minutes longer. He can't tell a story in 2 hours. He needs long format. Look at his Justice League. That was so much better than the.
Well, it depends on the story. It depends on the story.
Oh, I agree.
It needed that. I do agree. I watched the longer one and I was like, this is better because now there's less gaps where I'm like, I didn't understand what the hell. How did we get here? Now wait a minute. You know what I mean?
Snyder works best in like a 4 to 6 hour piece because he's a bigger storyteller. Besides something like Dawn of the Dead or 300, those are more contained stories. Something like this, he needs the wider gap. You know?
Did I also notice that when that damn briefcase opened up, the number on the suitcase was 300? I was like, wait a minute, didn't he do that movie?
No, that is not you.
Yeah, he did 300. Yeah, that's how he got this movie, was because he did Dawn of the Dead and 300. So yeah,
there's actually a small connection to this movie in 300 that we're going to talk about here in just a second with trivia. But let's ask ourselves a question real quick. I'll start with you, Tex. Was this movie really that far ahead of its time? Because it, like I said, Ed, I watched it and I was thinking to myself, I remember how I felt watching it back in 2009 when it came out, and I think the once or twice that I've watched it since. And then watching it for the first time in a long time, just yesterday, I was thinking to myself, this movie hits a little different now. Was this movie just kind of too far ahead of what the audience was in 2009?
This movie would hit so much harder if like the first two phases of Marvel and DC had already came out. Because yes, we had the Spider-Man films, the X-Men, of course, a few different Batman. So there was a canonical timeline of a lot of superhero stuff, but not like we have nowadays. I firmly 100% believe this film was at least 10 years too early. It was. I think this film does not get a lot of the credit that it deserves. I'm not saying it's the best film ever, but if you want something that breaks down, like I said, breaks down the dichotomy of what a superhero film is, and kind of is meta and almost points fun at it at times, this is it. This is, if you want to see an Avengers film, don't watch this one because this ain't a superhero movie. This has got blue dick and people ripping arms off. This is a complete opposite thing.
Yeah.
But I 100% would say yes, this was ahead of its time. No doubt about it.
Jeremy, how about you? Should this movie come out 10 years later, like Tech said, or do you think it came out at the right time?
Well, in the roundabout way, coming out at the right time, because like you said, now, like I said, I watched this when, like I said, I was a junior in high school, and I hadn't actually watched it until I watched it for this review. So having that time removed for me, where, like I said, now, I mean, I know stuff like The Boys or stuff that, where I can put to it where I'm like, oh, this kind of makes more sense now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like you said, there's not a whole lot of superhero stuff that was out then that was nothing that was like what this movie was. You know what I mean? Like Tex said, like you want to watch the good guys beat the bad guys, do their thing, and like I said, everybody goes home, or some people don't; they die, but they get impaled by a glider or some dumb shit, or come back from the dead somehow and tell Wolverine, "Well, you're not the only one who's special." I'm like, what? That didn't explain shit. Fool, you're Patrick Stewart, but man, you better explain that. Now hold on. that scene came up on like I was scrolling through shit and that came up and I was like, yeah, that still makes me mad. I hate when he did that. I hate when he did that shit.
Yeah.
I was with Wolverine. I'm like, what?
Right.
But no, like maybe it might have the Blade Runner thing. Like we might even go another 10 or not quite been 10 years. I don't think. Was it 2009? Or no, not 10 years. I'm sorry. About 20 years down the line, maybe even more than that. We might still look at it and be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe it had a point because it isn't a typical superhero movie, and that's usually the ones that are more fun. That's why The Boys is so much fun because you're like, oh yeah, they're not just normal guys, normal superheroes doing their thing. There's more depth to it, and that's what makes it fun.
Well, that's the whole thing about it. I mean, think about the ending of this film when Ozymandias has laid out his whole plan. He's executed his whole plan. And, I mean, there's nothing that can be done about it. But he technically is lying and he did something wrong. But do you disagree with what he did? I mean, like I said, this is...
And the heroes still kind of lost. They couldn't do anything about it.
Oh, yes, they absolutely lost. They 100%. They got their butts in.
It was already over before they walked in. Yeah.
Who do you side with at the end of this movie? Who do you think was actually right? That's my question. Ozymandias, Rorschach, Night Owl, who's kind of like, well, there's nothing we can do about it, but if we say it's going to undo everything, well, I mean, like, where do you stand at the end of this? Are you with Dr. Manhattan? You just want to leave. You just want to, whatever. I mean, where do you stand on this?
Because it has the Dark Knight thing where it's like they kind of have to be that scapegoat, like that's like, well, but yeah, see, it's his fault, but he's kind of like, yeah, but we got them to stop pointing nukes at each other. So
I was thinking about that line as I was watching the movie the other day. It's like you either die a hero or you see yourself live long, or you live longer, yourself become the villain. And that's exactly what happens to Dr. Manhattan. It's like he's a hero 1 minute, and then this stuff happens. They blame on him, and he's like, well, maybe. And he makes the same decision that Christian Bale's Batman, Bruce Wayne, makes at the end of that whole saga. Is that it's better them to blame me. They point their blame, their hate at me, because if we don't, then I run the risk of undoing all the good work that was done by Harvey Dent and stuff like that. It's much better for the people of Gotham, for the people that I'm trying to protect, to just let them think that I'm the bad guy. And that's the decision.
Well, that's the whole thing.
But then you get to the end. There's another little facet, like with Rorschach. It's like, should he maybe say something, or it's like no, because if you bust this open, it's like you said. Well, now what do? You can't do anything.
Well. I mean, that's the thing. The whole point of this was
Rorschach said, "Fine, fuck it, kill me."
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, he doesn't. Rorschach never compromises, even in the face of the apocalypse.
Yep, never.
That's his motto. That's his line in the sand. He ain't crossing it. That's it. You might as well concrete it. It's done. And I mean, Ozymandias, he tricked Manhattan. He tricked everybody else. He set off these bombs. He did the whole thing. He achieved world peace, as far as we know. Now, it was through nefarious means, and millions had to die for it. But this is the whole thing, and the whole argument of, is he a villain? Is Ozzy? Yes, he technically murdered people. Yes, he did bad things. I'm not asking, is he a bad guy? Is he a villain? Because what villain wants world peace? There's a lot of theoretical questions that you can ask from this film. And depending on your personality, you're going to get a lot of different answers. This film is deeper than a lot of superhero media.
Well, it's like Texas' favorite thing is Saw. It's like, is he actually a murderer? No, not really.
Right.
But hey, you learned your lesson.
He didn't make that girl cut her arm off. I mean, this makes you think about it.
Well,
this is what I love about it.
He puts in a position, so I mean,
you can get out.
His action is direct. His actions directly lead to the stuff that happens. So yeah, he's
well,
he didn't kill them. He said, "Here you go. Now get yourself out."
Right.
I don't know. See, we can have a whole discussion on the morality.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a whole other shit. He's not really a bad guy.
You got Manhattan, who's like, I'm tired of humanity. I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm going to Mars. Adios. You've got Rorschach that would rather die and pass his log off to some conspiracy InfoWars kind of level newspaper. You've got Night Owl, Night Owl is just kind of stuck. He what's he going to do? Is he going to take down the guy that can re-atomize himself? There is nothing that he can do about any of this. Ozymandias' plan has already went through. There's so many viewpoints you can come at from this. I mean, I find that very interesting.
Well, the one flaw from the point of view of Ozymandias and Thanos is the assumption that the people that you're going to kill to save the other people aren't going to eventually one day figure out how to fix it all. That's the one flaw, because that's a big assumption to make when you're talking about killing a large sum of people. So that's the part that is an unknown. And with something so big being an unknown, I have a tough time saying, yes, I agree with him, because I don't know that all those people would have died otherwise. So you're just trying to find some way to justify killing a large number of people, which is basically what Hitler did. I mean,
Hitler was a vegetarian.
He fabricated reasons to kill a bunch of people. So
didn't Negan have that line too, where he's like, "Look, we've been killing each other since the beginning of time." It's like that's the point. It's always going to happen. Like maybe that was the end of the Matrix. They were like, we finally.
What happened to the American dream? It came true.
Yeah.
I mean, he called it out.
It's finally happened until it doesn't. You know what I mean? It's all good until it goes to shit. That's kind of the and they were like, these people are so far past this point now. I guess we're pointing nukes at each other. This is where we got to go. You know what I mean? You got to push a little bit further than they're willing to go in order to. I mean, that's the funny thing. You got to because humans are annoyingly resilient. Like we refuse to die, right? But we will try to find a way to kill each other in every way possible. So it's a weird, it's a hard reset. And they're like, all right, cool. This is what's going to be the norm from now on. Until again, the two biggest kids on the block start fighting again. To throw in a Red Dawn reference for you, and sooner or later they're going to fight.
True. Well, see, that's one thing I will give credit for toward the Night Owl character. He's obviously modeled after Batman. Mm-hmm. But this whole, I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you nonsense that they always put on Batman. I am so sick of
that's why I like older Batman.
Batman has killed in every movie he's ever been in. People, stop having the argument. Literally,
is Batman like Jigsaw? I know. Put that poll up.
Batman literally hands a bomb to a clown in Batman Returns and pushes him into the sewer. What did you think is going to happen? He murdered.
He could have thrown it away. You're going to play Call of Duty, you can throw it back. Damn it.
He shot people with the Batmobile. He shot clowns with the Batmobile. Come at me, I dare you. Either way, this Night Owl, he doesn't make any bones. Whenever him and Silk Spectre are in that alley fighting those goons or whatever, he straight up stabs one of them in the neck and doesn't even give a crap. This whole kill rule nonsense, this doesn't apply here, pal. We threw that out the window.
I like
and I love it.
Funner. Yeah, like I said, I think that's why the older Batman kind of just said, maybe that's not the philosophy to use. So
yeah, I like superheroes.
Well, it's so stupid. I will put you in traumatic, care. I will break every bone in your body, but out of my stupid moral code, I won't end your life, even though you're going to break out of Arkham and kill another 1,000 people tomorrow, Joker. That has never made any sense. You should snap that dude's neck and keep walking. Is what you should do. But they don't have that in this film. With Night Owl, even as somebody as good and pure as Night Owl seems to be, he'll take you out. He knows what the cost of it is. And I really like that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, but I don't know. We could spend probably a whole show sitting here debating on whether you agree with the morals, whether you agree with Thanos or Ozymandias or any of the villains in popular television or TV shows or movies that have been like this. But that might be a fun little debate topic for some other time. But let's move on now to a little bit of trivia. And when I say a little bit, I mean I've got 1, 2, I've got 3 pages of some banging ass trivia here that is
Sweet.
sure to get us discussing for the next hour or so. We talked about the opening sequence to the film. Very interesting. Obviously, some images from our history that have been altered a bit. This introduction features many cultural references from history, slightly altered. The first one is Silhouette kissing the nurse on VJ Day, celebration in Times Square, taking the place of the sailor in Alfred Eisenstadt's famous photo. The sailor who was originally in the photo, if you can see in the background, kind of like he was just a half a second too late. That one I thought was interesting because even for the time, for like 1945 when the war ended, 2 girls kissing in the street would have drawn a lot of attention because homosexuality not really mainstream at the end of World War II. I thought that was kind of interesting. Sally Jupiter's retirement party recreates the image of the Last Supper painting by Leonardo da Vinci.
Yep.
The comedian shaking hands with faux Richard Nixon is obviously based on the famous photograph of Richard Nixon and Elvis Presley in the White House. The image of the peace protester placing a flower in the gun barrel mirrors the famous flower power photo taken by Bertie Boston in 1967. And the scene itself also suggests a later event, the shooting of protesting students by National Guard soldiers at Kent State University in Ohio in 1970.
Yeah.
So there was kind of a twofer in that one. That one was very interesting. Ozymandias outside of Studio 54, I've seen a lot of famous pictures from Studio 54. Actors representing the village people can be seen behind him on the right, while David Bowie as Ziggy Stardust is to the left, and Mick Jagger can also be seen in the shot. Again, we already kind of mentioned the opening sequence. It was kind of artistic and kind of cool the way they did it all. Again, it does frame the fact that they're in this alternate history, 1985. Jeremy, was how interesting of a way was it to put us in the universe, that opening scene?
Well, when you do your opening, you got to get people's attention. You got to draw them in. So you take these things that we've all seen. We've all seen that picture of the sailor kissing the girl. We've seen, we know that picture of Elvis and Nixon, and so. You change just a little thing about it, you can kind of point and be like, I got you, And if you would have told one of them that Ronald Reagan was the president in 85, they'd be like, what? Who's vice president? Jerry Lewis? You know what I mean? It's where you can get. I'm going to keep these zingers going, I'm telling you. But that's what makes it fun. It draws you in and you're like, oh my God, this is wild because it really happened. But you kind of sit back and think, well, that's interesting. To see just what little things change, or the times they are changing, I guess, as he so eloquently put it.
Well, I mean, that was a song that was playing throughout the entire opening credits.
I love that song, by the way.
Great use of Bob Dylan. Great use of Bob Dylan throughout this entire
love that,
by the way. But I don't know, Tex, what do you think of that opening sequence? Every bit as good. Was it Batman versus Superman, or was it Justice League? In the opening credits, you see Thomas and Martha Wayne, the whole situation of them being killed.
Batman v Superman.
That was, I loved that opening credits. That to me is one of the best decisions DC had made in the old regime anyway. Was having that all play out in credits. I thought it was a great artistic way of doing things, and it was not rehashing shit we already knew. But what do you think about this opening montage, Tex?
I love Zack Snyder's opening to a film, whether it's Dawn of the Dead, this film, Batman v Superman, even all the way to Army of the Dead. He tells a mini movie or a short story within his credit sequence before you get to the big piece. Now, one thing, I don't know if you probably have this in your trivia, I'm not sure, but did y'all notice another superhero in that opening credit scene that's not actually in the movie?
Yes.
The guy that kind of looked like Captain America?
No.
One of my bits of trivia about the opening scene is about another superhero that may have not existed.
What, Jeremy? What? When you see the original Night Owl and he's holding the bank robber and the gun's going off, what's on the wall behind him? Do you remember what's on there?
No, I think I was still. I remember what you're talking about now, but I think I was too absorbed in that was. Near the beginning, I was just like, what the fuck is going on? This is awesome. I don't think I saw it.
Yeah, well, it's spoiler alert. It's the cover of, I believe, the first Batman and Robin comic book. It's like wallpapered on that brick wall.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one where they're they're both swinging together.
Yeah, where they're both swinging. I believe it's Batman and Robin #1. I'm not for sure. I don't know the exact number of it. But no,
like,
this credit.
Not the Detective Comics where Batman was introduced. The actual first Batman and Robin, the Batman comic.
I believe it's I believe it's Batman and Robin. Yes, but no, I love this credit scene.
Huh.
I mean, just from the Batman scene alone, then like you said, you go from the Last Supper to, you know, you see the comedian where he's holding the guy with the Tommy gun and it's slowly blasting off, and how they play that out. You know, Zack Snyder artistically, he's one of the best. He knows how to visit. His scripts may not always be great, but artistically, visually, there's very few that are better. I mean, I want to see a film about the Minutemen in the 1940s. I want to see that movie. Give me that prequel. You know what I mean? That's how good that was. Give me a Zack Snyder prequel for Watchmen. I'd love that. Take my money, please, as the gift goes around said. Here's my money.
Well, I'll go ahead and skip to the third one I was going to bring up, since text kind of brings it up. Around the 5-minute mark during the opening credits, the original Night Owl stops a mugging. There are Batman comic book covers and Fledermaus posters hanging on the wall of the alley. It can be assumed the people he saves from being accosted are Thomas and Martha Wayne, parents of Bruce Wayne, who are coming out of the theater. This is further implied by a poster with the word Gotham on it. Gotham, of course, the city in which Batman operates. But since his parents live, there's no need for Bruce Wayne to become Batman in the Watchmen universe. So Bruce Wayne never became Batman. That's an assumption that's made by watching the opening credits. There's nothing in the movie, of course, that says that specifically.
This already is an alternate thing, so
it makes sense.
Well,
yeah.
When you watch this film, this is just Zack Snyder auditioning to make a Batman movie. Look at how Night Owl comes out of I forget the name of his ship, Kirby or
no,
what was the name of his ship? Either way, whenever Comedian and Night Owl Archie, yeah. Whenever Night Owl is coming out of Archie and he does the whole cape thing and comes down and blah blah blah. Yes. Tell me he's not. That's an audition for Batman right there. He's like, look, here's what I can do.
That was the most Batman thing I've ever seen. It was awesome.
But that's one of the greatest Batman scenes ever. It's not even Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, put that in a film role. And I mean, obviously, because Night Owl's a ripoff of Batman. It is what it is. But there's just so much good in this opening. I want an hour. I want like a 2-hour featurette of just what happened in that 5-minute credit sequence. It was just too cool. I loved it.
Yeah, the opening credit sequence is full of a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool images. But there's a connection also to 300, directed by Zack Snyder. The first official image from Zack Snyder, a test shot of Rorschach holding the comedian's button, was actually hidden in a trailer for Snyder's previous film, 300, which was released in 2006. It features that film's associate producer, Wesley Collar, wearing a makeshift mask in front of a composite New York City backdrop, and was created as an experiment by Snyder to establish the mood and look of his proposed Watchmen project. Snyder's wife, Deborah Snyder, bet him $100 that nobody would discover it. While he was convinced that someone would find it almost immediately, he won the bet. I'm not going to lie to you. I went and watched the 300 trailer after reading this. I couldn't see shit. And I actually found a video on YouTube where a guy actually got like the half-a-second frame. It looks like I don't know if it's because it was so blurry that I can't make anything out, or just like it was in an actiony spot of the trailer for 300, so there was a lot going on, so maybe just like some camera blur was affecting it. I didn't see shit. I don't know what they're talking about. I'm just going to assume that the internet's right on this one, but I wasn't seeing it. Have you guys ever heard about this?
I've never heard of that. I didn't know that to be a thing or not. I mean, but I haven't seen the 300 trailer since it probably came out.
I'll grab the video that I saw and I'll put it in our Twitter room. But I personally don't see it. And the guy pauses on the frame, and but like I said, it's so blurry. It's hard to make out anything. It was in the middle of a fight scene in the trailer, so there was a lot going on. So it kind of got lost. But I don't. But it's a millisecond of something and half of a frame of a trailer. I don't know that it's real. I think it's probably one of those things that's probably just bullshit, and people have just kind of let the rumor live. But that's just me.
I thought it was the damn briefcase. Like I said, when it opens up and there's the psychiatrist with the Rorschach papers. Yeah, I thought that the numbers on the briefcase unlock it was 300. I kid you not. And I'm like,
I don't remember what I don't remember the passcode to the briefcase. I don't. Do they show it?
Yeah,
it focuses on the lock of the briefcase as it pops open when the wind starts to blow as all the shit's getting ready to pop off.
I don't remember that.
I swear it said
okay.
I swear it did. So I was like, that's funny.
Okay. I mean, I'd believe it. I mean, it'd be a nice callback for Snyder. I get it.
All right.
So around the 10-minute mark in the opening montage of the movie, Neil Armstrong says, "Good luck, Mr. Gorski, on the moon." In urban legend, the child version of Neil Armstrong, this is real life, searching his neighbor's backyard for his lost baseball, overhears Mrs. Gorski from the bedroom saying, "Oral sex? I'll give you oral sex when the kid next door walks on the moon." And so years later, good luck, Mr. He says, "Good luck, Mr. Gorski," is the first lunar transmission from the moon to Earth. This story has been widely debunked by Armstrong himself and other sources, but I think it's a cool. I think it's a cool story.
That's still funny.
Yeah,
it is still funny. I mean, it kind of makes sense. But I had totally forgotten that he even said "Good luck, Mr. Gorski" when he was on the moon. And it's something I had heard years ago, and I just pushed out of my mind when I was reading this. I was like, "Are you kidding me? That's kind of awesome." But we'll think about for a minute what could have been with this movie. Tim Burton was at one point interested in directing the film, with Johnny Depp playing the comedian, but he began working on Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street 2007, and Alice in Wonderland in 2010.
That's a better move.
Passing on this movie. Oh my God, did we dodge a bullet on that one?
I don't see that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, like I said, Tim Burton's hit or miss. He either puts out something great or he puts out absolute dog shit. I appreciate the good stuff that the first two Batmans are great. The stuff with Michael Keaton, good movies.
Yes.
Other stuff he's done has just been. It's like he's just dark for the sake of being dark, and I'm like, sometimes you can lighten things up, change your directing style a bit. I mean, I look, his style is dark. I get it. For some things it works, some things it doesn't. Take a look at the Batman movies compared to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Not everything works good in dark form, but like him and Johnny Depp, I mean, look, there's some things they do together that are good. If we would have gotten something like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory out of this, not interested. I don't know what that film would have looked like, but I don't think it would have been better than what we got in the end. I don't know. Do you guys think that Tim Burton would have made a passable Watchmen film?
No.
I couldn't see anybody but Zack Snyder making this. I mean, when this movie is literally almost a shot-for-shot remake, besides the ending, because the ending of the book is way different and way more stupid. I don't see Tim Burton doing this. I don't see Johnny Depp anywhere near this movie. The closest role I could see Johnny Depp in would be Ozymandias, and then he would just be too over the top and goofy with it. I don't see it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't buy that.
Yeah, the only thing that would have worked out for me with Tim Burton is that there is a dark quality of this film that I think is kind of right up Tim Burton's alley, but there are other aspects that made this movie good that I'm not 100% confident that Tim Burton would have excelled at. I mean, I don't know that he would have handled Rorschach the right way. I don't know that he would have handled
damn well
the daddy-daughter drama that really didn't play a part in the movie at all between Silk Spectre and the comedian, which is not really important to anybody outside the last 5 minutes of the movie. It's not even really important then, to be honest. It's like I don't think he would have played
there if you. I mean, I would argue that it is. I mean, it's not really drama because the comedian's already dead, but whenever Rorschach goes to see Manhattan and Spectre in the army base, and he touches her on the forehead, she knows that, but she just doesn't say anything. You know what I mean?
You know damn well if Tim Burton had done this movie, he would have made Danny DeVito the guy in the prison instead of the other guy. Now that would have been pretty damn fun.
That would have been funny.
Isn't that the guy from Seinfeld, Mickey?
The only thing I know him from was that Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I swear that's the guy from Seinfeld.
Oh, I don't know.
I haven't watched Seinfeld.
He was the elf in Jingle All the Way. That's all I remembered. I'm like, oh yeah, he was.
I don't know, but I mean, that whole prison scene, the dude sticks his arms through the bars. What did you think was going to happen? Like, seriously, like, what? Really? This is your plan? What? Wait 2 seconds, the door will be open.
It was cool to watch that guy be like saw through his arms and be like, "Sorry, bro, nothing personal."
Oh, please, no! I was all about it. Give me the gore, baby. I'm here.
Let's see.
That was your plan? Not very smart, dude. So.
Yeah, Alan Moore is one of the creators of the graphic novel. When he was asked on his thoughts about the upcoming movie adaptations of his seminal graphic novel, Alan Moore sighed and said, "Do we really need another shitty film in the world?" Moore has famously
Alan Moore is not a fan.
Yeah, he has famously and very vocally been unhappy about the adaptations of V for Vendetta, which is one of my favorite movies, to be honest, and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen back in 2003. Like many, Moore was also of a mind that the comic was unfilmable. I don't know. I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Like I said, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, I'll kind of give you that one. It's like, I like it. Well, I feel like it could have been better handled. But it was a fun idea.
It's an entertaining, weird kind of.
His version of the story. Version of the story might be unfilmable because his version of the story, Ozymandias doesn't steal Manhattan's powers. He kidnaps scientists and have them create a gigantic squid monster that kills 3 million people in New York City. That's how he ends the book.
Did you notice that the acronym for what he builds is SQUID, SQUID?
Yes, I did notice that. That's the original ending. It's not, we're going to solve the energy crisis and blah, blah, blah. No.
Yeah.
Ozymandias kidnaps prominent scientists, takes them to an island, and then they create this squid monster thing that looks like it belongs in the King Kong Kaiju universe. And it kills 3 million people in New York. That's how it ended. So, yeah. Much better. That's why I said Snyder did Watchmen better than Alan Moore did at the beginning of this. But,
V for Vendetta is one of my favorite movies. I think it's a very interesting look at what happens when one side gets all the power and there's not the other side there to kind of balance it all out. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, not great. I was always kind of bummed with that.
I like that movie. I enjoy that film.
I was always kind of bummed that's where the late great Sean Connery decided to end his career. It was kind of maybe that he would have one more great performance in him, but he decided to end it there. Which whatever. We had 40, 50 years of great Sean Connery.
You're gonna say how long did he act for?
But I don't know. Stephen King is like this too. He's notoriously hard on the film and television adaptations of his books. Tom Clancy's the same. Was the same way. I mean, every time they made a Tom Clancy book, like Hunt for Red October or something like that, he was very famously someone who was really hard on the film adaptations of his books. So, I actually, one of the things that's really funny is the Sum of All Fears with Ben Affleck. There is a separate commentary by Tom Clancy on the DVD that I have, and he spends a good 10 or 15 minutes talking about how bad this movie is. Why would you let that sit in it? Where he talks about not how bad the movie is, but just about how he didn't agree with doing this or didn't like this or whatever. He kind of shits on it at a couple of different points in the commentary. And part of me is kind of like, why the hell would the motion picture company even put that commentary on there? If he's going to talk any shit at all.
He still took the check, though. Just saying.
Oh yeah, well he was getting ready to buy the Minnesota Vikings at one point, so he was definitely going to make. He was definitely catching.
That's what I'm saying.
He has since passed away. Unfortunately,
he may have crapped on it, but he sure took their money. He didn't have no problem with that money, right? So,
Malin Åkerman said in an interview that she had no problem with being naked in her role because, unlike a lot of other actresses, she grew up learning that nudity is nothing to be ashamed of. She was quoted as saying, "In Sweden, nudity is natural. It's not considered sexual. We've grown up with our bodies on television. People are topless on the beach. My parents would sometimes walk naked from the bedroom to the bathroom. You don't blink because it's so natural. I always think of my parents when I take a role. If I had been brought up in a prudish household, perhaps I would think differently, but if the role's a good one, the nudity is not even an afterthought." Well, it's easy for her to say when she's rocking the kind of guns that she's rocking.
You're going to say, I'm going to go ahead and applaud her nudity because it was appreciated. But hey, when you look like that, you don't need clothes.
I still think, and I didn't get around to my negatives, but my negatives were the nudity in this movie. It was pointless and stupid. I mean, the sex scene floating around the owl was just. It just kind of stopped the movie for me. I
don't think it's pointless when you know the character, the meaning of the behind Night Owl's role in this film. I think it's valid.
Yeah, but you could have inferred that they have sex up there without actually showing the whole scene. it just takes up space in the movie. It doesn't really do anything for the narrative. You've already established at that point that being in a fight gets him going anyway. You didn't really need it. It was kind of dumb. That and the whole blue penis thing. It's like you couldn't have Ken-dolled him, really. It's like because it's like there was
there are shots when he has like underwear on or some shit. I'm like, why didn't you just do that?
I was like, yeah, why did you do that for the whole movie? Why do you gotta walk around with this blue schlong hanging out over the place? I'm like, come on, really? I got 55 inch TV, and it's like I'm sitting there trying to watch this movie, and I'm like, dude, come on! It's like right there.
Could we trade like half the blue dong scenes for more topless Malin Åkerman scenes? Because I'm willing to do that.
But yeah, I don't know. Those are my only two real negatives about the movie. Going on about more nudity. This was the first DC Comics film that featured any nudity at all. The 5 films that followed are Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, which I don't remember any nudity in that. That's in the Ultimate Edition. So maybe in the theatrical it wasn't there. That's in the Ultimate Edition. Suicide Squad in 2016, Wonder Woman in 2017. I don't remember anything in that movie either. Maybe there was.
There's no nudity in any of
those. Suicide Squad in 2011, and oddly enough, the Flash movie coming up here in just a couple of weeks apparently has some. So that's interesting to me.
The Flash has nudity?
That's what this is saying. I don't know if that's going to. I don't know if that's going to. If that's actually what it's going to be.
I'm not sure if.
Well, I mean, are we talking about nudity or are we talking about a sex scene? Because it's like.
Right.
I mean, are we going topless, or you see a side boob? I mean, if it's side boob, I don't necessarily consider that nudity. I mean, like I said, it's got to fit the narrative of the story. It's got to work for the
character. Odds are it's probably going to be like Flash is like trying to change, and you see a butt cheek for a second.
If that's the nudity, whatever, that's more comical than anything else. It doesn't really have to fit the narrative if it's comical. Yeah. But to me, I'm kind of like, if it serves the story, whatever. It's like the 80s movies like Porky's or whatever. It's like that was gratuitous nudity that was just there for comedic effect and because a bunch of teenagers were making movies back in the 80s. But it's like nowadays, it's like I feel like we need to be a little more classy about it. You know what I mean? But,
I am all in favor of nudity. Give me gore, give me boobs as much as possible, please.
Yeah, Rachel says she did like there seemed to be equal nudity from both male and female actors. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, I'd probably say there was probably more male nudity if you consider that Mr. Manhattan's walking around with no underwear on for
every scene.
A good majority of his time in the movie. So,
because I said right after that, after they had their little it didn't really work out. Nida went down to the basement. He was staring at his suit. He was still fully just ass naked, and she came down. She had something around her. I was like, oh well, okay.
I think in 2 scenes you get Patrick Wilson's butt when he's down, when he sleepwalks, and then when they do it. I think you get twice there. So, I mean, it's pretty well. It's equally represented here. I don't think Snyder's afraid of the nudity.
True. This one kind of makes me question Zack Snyder a little bit. Malin Åkerman and Carla Gugino, who played daughter and mother in The Watchmen, kissed each other in a video for 30 seconds as part of a water bucket challenge from director Zack Snyder. Why?
Really?
Why?
I'm gonna have to do some research for the channel later after we get off here.
I don't know.
He'll be in his bunk.
I
love Firefly so much. He'll be in his bunk.
I kind of wonder about Zack Snyder sometimes. Like I said, the last couple of years, my opinion on Zack Snyder at a personal level has taken a couple of hits because of the way he's behaved in some things. But I mean, it's like, why would you have them do this as the water bucket challenge? Was the water bucket challenge even a thing back in 2009?
No, something like 2014.
Yeah, that was right before the pandemic. That was right before the pandemic and all that stuff was going on, right? The whole water bucket challenge. I want to say that was like 2017, 2018.
I thought it was earlier than that because I remember doing it at the.
I bet that was earlier than 18. I don't know. Somebody can Google it in the chat and let us know, but it was earlier than 18.
I felt like that's when it was, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, I don't understand why, Zack Snyder. I mean, whatever. you do your thing, bro.
Well,
but
I can tell you why he did it because dudes like me are going to go, ooh, 2 hot chicks kissing. I'm going to send this to all my friends, and it gets attention for the whatever cause they were doing. That's why he did it.
Yeah, but whatever. You do you, Zack Snyder. You be who you are. But do you want to know how different this movie really could have looked? I mean, we talked about the possibility of Tim Burton directing a Johnny Depp-led version of this movie. When Alan Moore first conceived Watchmen, he wanted the story to feature characters created for Charlton Comics, which DC had just bought the rights to in 1983. But DC realized their expensive characters would end up either dead or dysfunctional, so they convinced Moore to use original characters instead. The original Charlton lineup would have been as follows. Get this. Instead of Rorschach, we would have gotten The Question, which I don't really know much about that character. Instead of Dr. Manhattan, we would have gotten Captain Atom, which I don't know anything about that character either. Instead of Night Owl, we would have gotten Blue Beetle. Instead of Silk Spectre, we would have gotten Nightshade. Instead of Ozymandias, we would have gotten Peter Cannon or Thunderbolt. And instead of the comedian, it would have been Peacemaker.
Okay.
That would have made a movie that looked really, really different. I mean, Jeremy, does that twist your mind a little bit?
Like, I kind of... Okay. I kind of see it. Those are some that, we know by name, but
I know all of them except for Nightshade. I don't know who Nightshade is.
Yeah, that's. But it kind of, it makes sense. Like, when you compare the comedian to, I can't get out of my head douchey Captain America, as John Cena put it. I'm like, yeah,
well,
that's kind of what it's like. So, yeah.
The Question, he's basically his mask is like flesh colored to where it looks like he has no face. He's dressed just like Rorschach with the hat and the coat. He has no facial features. Captain Atom, he's a DC metahuman that he has red and blue boots and he's all silver because he's contains energy within inside of himself. He's like a more minor DC character. Who else did you say was in there, Frank? Peacemaker and Nightshade?
Blue Beetle instead of Night Owl. Nightshade.
Oh, Blue Beetle.
Peter Cannon or Thunder, I guess it's the alter ego of a character named Thunderbolt. And then Peacemaker.
I don't know that character. I know Blue Beetle. I know Peacemaker. But I want to say that Question was based on Rorschach or Rorschach was based on Question. One of the two. One of those was inspired by the other. I can't remember which way it went.
I would imagine.
I want to say they were.
I would imagine all these characters are kind of close to each other in their overall look and what they are in the movie. They just kind of gave them other names.
Well, yeah, look at that. There's a team up right there of a comic. It's Question and Rorschach. I'm like, they're
right. They're literally.
The same Dick Tracy.
If you just color them differently, they're the same character. They're literally the same design.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that Question is like a conspiracy theorist type character, which that's what Rorschach is. They're literally the same thing. Blue Beetle, out of all those that stands out the most, Blue Beetle and Night Owl, that's a complete different background of a character. Blue Beetle's like, he's got the scare. No, okay. Was it Ted Cord Blue Beetle or Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle?
That's what I was thinking. It kind of depends on which variation of Blue Beetle you were going with.
If you want to go Ted Cord Blue Beetle, then they're basically the same thing. But Jaime Reyes, that's like Iron Man and Batman. It's close but different.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was interesting to think about how different this could have looked had they done this earlier, in the late '80s, around the time that we were getting Tim Burton's Batman.
Well,
as opposed to what we ended up getting.
It's not like DC was doing anything with those characters, anyways. Peacemaker wasn't a thing until they added him for John Cena.
We're just now getting Blue Beetle as well. So yeah,
right. Blue Beetle wasn't used until Young Justice cartoon, and then Batman Brave and the Bold cartoon. Question was used in Justice League Unlimited, that cartoon in the early 2000s. But besides that, he hasn't done anything. Nightshade, I'm not even sure who that is.
I don't know.
So
yeah, I'd have to look up a couple, like Thunderbolt. I don't know. Nightshade, I don't know. Captain Atom, and it's a question I don't really know anything about.
Captain Atom, like I said, he was used. y'all may have seen this movie, Batman, Superman, Public Enemies. It was a direct-to-DVD
I haven't seen
animated film.
it. I know what you're talking about.
He's in that film, and he's also Captain Atom is also part of the Justice League on a few different cartoons. That's all he's ever done.
But moving on to another piece of interesting trivia that I found. In both the graphic novel and the movie, after Dr. Manhattan kills Rorschach, he speaks to Laurie about leaving this galaxy for one considerably less complicated. He also mentions the possibility he will try creating life. In recent DC comic book events revolving around the Rebirth series, Dr. Manhattan is heavily implied to be the creator of the regular DC Comics universe. So he essentially is, while he lives in this kind of alternate history, he could also be God in the standard DC comic universe.
He's the Watcher, goddammit.
If you go read Doomsday Clock. It's a 12-issue series where it's basically Watchmen meets the DC universe. I won't spoil anything, but Dr. Manhattan is directly connected to a lot of things. I read the whole thing. So, yeah.
I'll have to look into that one. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, but, Doomsday Clock. I'm sure there's a graphic novel of where you can get the whole thing.
When Rorschach dies, here's the last piece of trivia before we start to get out of here. When Rorschach dies, his blood forms the shape of an ink blot on the snow. Although some viewers stated that Rorschach's blood formed the shape of a butterfly. Butterflies symbolize change, transformation, and freedom. The change and transformation part was interesting to me. Do you think that was kind of a subtle setup for a potential sequel, or is it just something that Zack Snyder decided to do for aesthetics?
I'd say aesthetics because it was a cool looking design. I don't think he actually thought of the butterfly thing. Could he have possibly, but I don't see that being a thing. You know what I mean?
I don't know, Jay. What do you think? I mean, how? First off, that was a cool scene. We've talked about it a couple times how cool it is when Manhattan just kind of does his little force explosion thing of an entire person's body. But what do you think of that scene?
Yeah, I was wondering if that was supposed to be that callback to he keeps asking them what do you see? He has a horrifying flashback. He's like, a butterfly. But this, it's a flower. I'm he's just so done. I was like, I don't know if it was supposed to maybe just be symbolic of something because he exploded into one of the ink blots or something. I don't know about sequel because he did kind of get meat grinded all to hell. So
both the movies, anybody can come back to life.
I guess.
You got to think. I mean, Dr. Manhattan, you would imagine, has the ability to just kind of snap his finger and bring him back to life. I mean,
because he did tell her I can.
Life.
He's like, I can fix anything. It was except for the human condition. I'm like, well, that's fair. So,
but the human condition is death.
Look, man, if he's going to create universes, I don't know. We have said in multiple. It's comic books. Who cares? Another snap of the fingers in your back. It doesn't matter.
Travel back in time and get the past Tony Stark to bring him back. If they're going to do it eventually, you may as well just do it now.
I know. I just thought maybe he was a loose end, and that was kind of the whole point. And then that was kind of the change. And he said, "You never compromise." I'm like, he just basically broke down and said, "Screw it, kill me then. Just do it." I'm like, damn, he's willing to just die with that. So, it's a big shift.
Yeah, but again, a great movie overall. Again, one that's grown on me over the years. There's been a few comic book movies I wasn't blown away by. This and Man of Steel. But over the years, they've kind of grown on me as kind of, one of those movies I didn't realize when I first saw them just how good they really were, what they were going to mean to the genre moving forward. I would put those two movies kind of in the same boat. So, I don't know. Jeremy, any final thoughts on Watchmen from you before we get out of here?
No. I'm glad. I think Tex is the one who suggested this one. So, as a fellow Browns fan, I thank you for that. That's what I'm going with.
Yay, team! Or what's that mean? You always say, "I'm doing my part."
Starship Troopers. I'm doing my part. Yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe one day I'll cosplay as Rorschach. That'd be pretty damn cool.
That would be pretty cool. I could have swore I had seen somewhere where somebody actually made a mask that kind of rotates between the Rorschach stuff.
Because
I don't know how accurate it looked. I don't know how good it looked, but I could have sworn that somebody actually made something like that.
There are, like I said, like heat sensitive ones, like someone did for like Harry Potter. It's like supposed to be the Marauder's Mask when you breathe on it, and then all of a sudden it turns into the map. I was like, that's kind of cool if you could do something with that. Although you'd be breathing all day, you just have one big spot in the middle of your damn face. Yeah. So I don't know.
That would be kind of cool, but I don't know. Tex, what do you think? Final thoughts on Watchmen?
Underrated film, doesn't get the credit it deserves, came out too early. Go watch this movie. Go watch the director's cut. Don't get the ultimate cut because that's got the Black Freighter comic stuff. The Black Freighter was the comic within the Watchmen comic. You don't have to have that for this movie. Go watch the director's cut of this film. It's about 30 minutes longer.
I think they actually made that into a direct-to-DVD thing as well, starring Gerard Butler. Because initially, Zack Snyder wanted Gerard Butler, because he had worked with him in 300, to play a role in this movie.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
He ended up doing a direct-to-DVD or a TV show, maybe even, or direct-to-TV.
Yeah, I remember seeing the DVD. But yeah, if you watch the ultimate cut of this film or the Black Freighter cut, it's 3.5 hours. You get it all. But the director's cut, you get everything except for the Black Freighter stuff. And visually, it works the best. This film it's an interesting concept. You're either going to love this film or you're going to question it. Like, why is this movie? But I recommend it. I think this is one that I would, if you haven't seen, go check out because it's the anti-superhero film. But it's pretty cool.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I echo what Tex says. I think it's underrated. I think it's one of the movies that over time, as your understanding of the genre and kind of as the world evolves goes, you kind of get a different appreciation for the film. Again, casting overall very, very good, very, very well done artistically by Zack Snyder and all those involved in making the film. I think it is a beautifully shot film. There's a lot of the not steampunk, what I'm talking about. It's kind of like art, a little bit of Art Deco, a little bit of alternate history, that weird dystopian kind of gritty look. Yeah, the weird gritty look that you can kind of give the past that gives it a bit of a different dimension, helps you see the past a little differently. I think it was very, very well done. No post-credit scenes. Sorry for you people who've gotten used to that kind of thing in comic book movies, but no post-credit scenes. I have not watched the TV show that came out on HBO. Tex has been telling me that it would not be a good idea.
No,
I was going to get around to trying it a long time ago. I just never did. I might try to watch the first episode at some point just to see, but I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about it. That it doesn't quite have the magic of the film.
Woke politics is the two words I would describe when it comes to that show. It's hot garbage. Don't waste your time.
Yeah, they try to give it modern sensibilities and don't just make it something that's
the TV show has nothing to do with this film. It was directed by David Lindelof. I can't Lindelof or Love, whatever his name is. It's somehow a sequel to the original graphic novel, but it's not. It's a reimagining as a follow-up. So basically, we're going to take as much from the original property as we want to and do our own thing with it, and then preach to you why white people are bad. That's pretty much all they do with the whole thing.
I was going to say, hey, Book of Boba Fett, except they didn't do the
literally, it's white people bad, black people really created everything, and you're just racist, blah, 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 blah. And it was canceled after one season. I wonder why, because it sucked. It was so bad that in a interview, David Lindelof, he didn't want to screen it because if it got negative ratings, how would it affect it? He even says that in an interview. So don't waste your time with the HBO show. It's garbage.
Yeah, I don't know. I might just take Tex's word for it. It's kind of hard to get caught up on stuff these days anyway.
I mean, if you want to take the plunge and if you want to take the plunge and hate yourself for it, you feel free. You go right ahead, but don't say, I will be Crazy Ralph until you don't go in them woods. You're going to die if you go in them woods.
Doomed! So. You're all doomed!
Right.
You're gonna run off
This
with a
is
bicycle.
Right. I'll be crazy rougher. I don't mind.
Also, thanks to all of you who voted in the poll. We had, let's see, 14 votes in the poll. 64% of you thought that the Watchmen was great. 28% said it was okay. That's not bad. And Casey, for reasons passing understanding, voted that it was straight poop because he doesn't know how polls work, apparently.
Casey's gonna Casey, right?
Casey on Casey. That's what Casey does. He's probably
You never
out.
go full Casey.
Yeah, he's probably
Never go full
masturbating to Bright Bomber right now somewhere. So wherever Casey's at, good luck to you. But
hey man, kids play this game. Chill.
Yeah, but that's a good place to wrap things up. Jeremy, where can the folks at home find you on the internet, my friend?
I'm here. I'm here Thursdays doing. We do this since people want to go on strike. But hey, that's part of the fun. That was the whole well-rounded approach to the show that we can do current stuff, we can do old stuff. So we're all here to talk about film. That's a whole deal. I wasn't there yesterday, but I've been helping Frank try to make the Gladiator Arena in Fortnite without Casey's help. So
so much easier without Casey there to screw things up.
Well, when he's got to take 5 hours to do a stream in like the next 3 days, he's a busy man, So yeah, I'm on here and I'm on it's the name. Well, now I'm up here. Name's right there. It's on Twitter. It's on Twitch. It's on YouTube. There's Twitter probably has the most stuff, but nothing really of interest. I mainly bitch about work, but hey, we've all been there. So yeah, I don't know. People, I think actually Brooding. Well, I'll even plug Brooding Gamer. I do stuff with Brooding Gamer. I think his stuff's down there too. So just to make the multi-universe all makes sense. It's all connected. I'm over on his stuff too. So you see my dumb face there as well. But I completely lost my train of thought. Holy shit! I actually just completely derailed myself there. Anyway, I'm on I'm on his stuff too. So you'll give him a watch. Hell, I don't know. It's gonna come to me like Frank's gonna be saying something. I'm just gonna blurt it out.
That's usually how it goes.
That's all right.
And our friend from down south, our man Tex, what do you got going on, my friend?
Oh, not much. Working and
I got it.
Coming here. Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I'll remember now. Go ahead.
Okay, so feel free to butt in. No, not doing much. Working and coming on here on Thursdays and talking about film. That's about it. I am going to make this a weekly thing where I recommend a film to watch. And I watched a film on Tubi that was so independent, so cheesy, and so bad that you need to watch. Go watch Swamp Zombies 2. It was made for like $20 and like a hot dog and a handshake kind of deal. It's bad. It's fun.
Now wait, you said
it's
two.
Fun.
Right? Do I need to see one to understand this movie for the lore?
Swamp Zombies 1 was not on there. I don't know. I could not find Swamp Zombies 1.
Is it like Trolls 2 where it has nothing to do with the other one at all? Like
look, they didn't even make a first one. They just named it Part 2 to fuck with people.
Somebody talked to Urban Cursor. He's like episode 5. Empire Strikes Back.
The opening scene is a smoking hot zombie chick naked, and piercings are certain places that you will really enjoy if you catch.
I see why Tex likes this.
And movie. You get to see that in the opening scene. So, like I said, I'm fulfilling my resolution I did about supporting independent film. I'm doing my part, my God. So go watch Swamp Zombies 2, and we'll be back here on Thursday to do whatever. Come back on Thursday and yell at me about how bad Swamp Zombies 2 was if you want to in the comment section. I'm okay with that. But go check it out. It's on Tubi. It doesn't cost you anything but time. Come on.
My first amendment to what I said, I got there. Brooding Gamer suggested that maybe I should do since I do a lot of cosplay stuff. It's start putting stuff for cosplay stuff on either Instagram or put it on Twitter, put it on YouTube, put it on whatever.
Cool.
Yeah, because then I'm but it'd just be me there pissed off. All right, day 37 of going to Goodwill. I'm trying to find some damn pants.
You should do a once a week address from President Loki on YouTube, just like a 2-minute video or something. That's what you should do on social media. You already got the costume.
I know. And while I was just at the con this last time, I was like, I could do this. And the hilarious irony of it is that people would actually fall in line behind me. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm really ready for that, because it wouldn't be ironic to some people. They'd be like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm not 35. I'm not of age. I can't do that. Now the intrusive thoughts won. And I'm like, but when I am of age, right. I'm just saying, if you rep me in there under Harambe and Hennessy, because if you're from Ohio, you know what I'm talking about. I'm just.
Well, I don't know if you remember, Tex. That's one of the things we were going to do on Derailed. We were going to try to launch my write-in campaign, and then it just ended kind of.
Well, not just that.
You want to be our running mate? Fuck it.
We were going to have the election. It was you, me, and I think Drew was going to run, or J-Man or somebody. I can't remember who the third person was. But there was going to be 3 of us, and we were going to have the people watching the show. We were going to do like the whole campaign. I had Sleppy as a vice president. We actually got some legs to it. But yeah, no, it was, it's all good. So.
Maybe that's, I don't know. We do have a couple of years. We got the 18 months between now and next November when we vote. So we could, I don't know, we might put something together for fun. But
I'm down.
Yeah. That could be something we do. As for me, you can find me here, I don't know, a couple times a week, sometimes Thursdays, sometimes whatever. We're going to be sticking to mostly reviews for probably the rest of the summer, I would imagine, because there's a lot of movies I really want to get to. News has been kind of slow. I think we all kind of enjoy doing the reviews more anyway. So I think this is probably going to become more of a review-based channel moving forward, while still talking about occasionally the things that pop up. But you'll see us popping on here to do some news stories every now and again, especially some of the bigger stuff that happens. Remember, Comic-Con's coming up. We're about a month away from Comic-Con, and I would imagine that's where we're going to get we're going to get the big announcement for the forecasting. I would imagine there's I think there might even be a Superman casting being announced. I read a rumor today that Gunn has found his Superman. I don't know if that's true, but we're getting pretty close. So I have a feeling that next month's going to be some interesting news coming from Comic-Con. And then hopefully, of course, the writer's strike will be taken care of soon. It's just kind of stagnant. I don't think they're even talking. So there's not a whole lot of news to go on in Hollywood, except for the fact that they're not getting along over a lot of things. Some things logical, some things not. But, come check us out. Our next review will be sometime next week. I don't know exactly what day yet. We'll work that out. And, we've got a couple of things planned. I know we're going to do Pearl Harbor is going to be the next one we're probably going to do. I've already got a couple of pictures pulled for that. We're going to be doing Clue at some point. I've talked to Alex from Alex and the Garbage Man. We're trying to coordinate the schedule to do that because he's all the way up in Canada. He's north of the border. He's a Canuck. So
everybody's a suspect.
Yeah, so
that's wrong.
So we're going to get together and make that work. That's going to be a fun review. The 3 of us, probably Alex. I was actually talking to Dr. Nick, the Garbage Man, on Facebook earlier, and we were talking about Critters. I wouldn't mind doing the first 2 Critters movies. I think those are fun movies. They're free to watch on YouTube, so they're easy for everybody to find. So that might be something we do.
Gremlins knockoffs. I love it.
Yeah, they were good. The Chiodo brothers did a good job on the Gremlins. Good job, Chiodo brothers. But you can see us. You'll see us here. Don't forget to hit the like button. Try to grow the channel. As a matter of fact, I'll try to remind you guys right now that once we get to 500 subscribers, we've actually done very well the last week or so in growing. But once we get up to 500, we're going to be doing a charity stream for the Abandoned Pet Project. That helps get medical treatment at home for animals that have been abandoned after the whole slew of people getting companion pets in the pandemic. A lot of people just set these pets off on their own, return them to the shelters. Now they need our help to find their forever home. So let's go help the Abandoned Pet Project. Get us up to 500 subscribers, and we'll make that happen. Until next time, I want to thank you guys all for coming to hang out. We very much appreciate it. We will see you next time. Adios.
See y'all then.
Do it for the puppies.
I mean, gratuitous nudity and blue penises. I mean, I figure if you're going to have 2 negatives, it's going to be that.
It cancels each other out, right? That's how math works.
If you can give me gratuitous nudity and Malin Åkerman, you have my money and my attention.